3, 2, 1.
Alrighty. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Meal Prep Live with Better University. Today I will be making cilantro chicken with rice and baked vegetables. And then after we're going to be talking about keto. So that should be very interesting. And then also, if my Instagram people, we also have a YouTube and a Twitch channel. So if you want to check us out there, it's actually a better viewing experience because we have a camera going down in my working space, so you're not just looking at my back the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then also I have Dan and Victoria here who are always willing and able to answer any of your questions. So yeah, and then also subscribe to our YouTube channel because we have plenty. What do we have? 16 episodes? Well, 15. This is our 16th,
is episode
right?
16.
So we have great episodes on there that you can check out as well. Woohoo! All right, so I have my rice cooking, and I'm actually doing brown jasmine rice today, not white. I'm a changed woman.
So why are you switching to brown today instead of your usual jasmine?
Well, I decided to switch it up also because isn't white rice higher glycemic?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just I just want to switch it up for that reason.
And also
yeah.
the brown rice has a little bit more iron, but also, I think it takes longer to cook because
It does. I made some last night. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, like 45 minutes. I bought the brown rice. I always use white, and I was like, oh, it's like double.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to go because I had to go babysit, and I was like, let's go.
Well, I believe one of the biggest differences just between brown and white is brown still has like that extra coat on it, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it does kind of make sense. You have to permeate an additional layer of
great point.
rice.
You go get that. Where'd it go? Where it went?
Oh, don't worry. He'll find it. He's got a nose.
He's looking.
The nose knows.
Yeah. But I just decided to switch it up a bit. Which is all.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny because I did that.
That's so funny.
It is really a good idea to switch your base foods up every once in a while like that
Definitely.
too. Because I mean, as unfortunately you guys are just seeing us now, but right before we turned the cameras on, we were having a very interesting discussion about not doing the same thing for too long.
Yes.
And that will definitely come back into play when we talk about keto later today.
Yes. So for baking vegetables, my rule of thumb is I set the oven to 400 degrees and I cook it I bake it for about like 15 to 20 minutes depending on how much you have. Mm-hmm. And then I always use olive oil as a base, and then depending on what vegetable it is, I usually just use salt and pepper. But sometimes you can use like garlic or paprika, anything you want. Yeah.
You know, I've always wondered this. What the heck is the difference between paprika and pepper? I mean, I know they're definitely two different things, but what is paprika? What is pepper?
Honestly, I have no idea.
You guys.
That's a great question.
Really simple.
I have
things,
no
right?
idea. No idea. What is paprika? Do you have some in here?
We do. I believe it's in the cabinet above your head.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry guys.
Actually, ironically, we can still see the cooking surface
There
pretty
you
well.
go.
Wow. Whoa.
Oh, look at that.
Ingredients. Paprika and silicon dioxide.
Oh,
Very
okay.
important to include that second word, silicon dioxide.
Yeah.
But that's really just to make it free-flowing. So again, paprika is itself. But I mean, those are like
roasted peppers.
I was going to say, yeah, those are like red peppers, right?
Yep.
And chili peppers. So is that maybe that's just what it is? It's a
I know,
combination
I'm
of
looking at
roasted peppers and chili peppers.
I guess
Really?
so.
Instead of just peppers? Well, what is... Huh.
Dried red fruits. I think it says general.
Huh.
Bell pepper, sweet pepper. Yeah.
Okay.
Tomato.
So varieties of the capsicum plant, which I believe those are responsible for creating like a
Oh my
thermogenic
goodness.
effect inside your body. Like they're a little bit of a spicier plant.
Chili pepper.
Interesting. Okay. So for those of you watching at home, paprika is more or less a smorgasbord of red fruits and vegetables that have been chopped very finely and dried out.
Interesting.
And like, I find it interesting that doesn't say that.
Right? It just says paprika.
Yeah,
Is it,
when-
like, isn't that made of something?
When it's actually like
How are
a
you gonna find
blend.
that?
So you're never supposed to use the word to describe the word. Like that's just English 101. Come on now.
That's funny.
So now, here's my next question. We found out what paprika is, but what is pepper?
So, peppercorns.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I've actually never
pepper's
looked
just
this
ground
up
up
before.
peppercorn.
I know,
right?
it's very simple.
What is a peppercorn?
I
I've
know.
never actually seen a peppercorn before.
I know.
I know, and how is it grown?
It looks like a berry.
Yeah. Well, because when you have it,
How weird.
when you have it like the uncrushed version in the shakers where you have to make it, it looks like those little balls.
Oh,
That's-
yeah.
You know, so that's what it is.
So it's probably just dehydrated peppercorn
Yep.
flakes that you just.
But how is it grown? That's just like
On a
cashews.
tree, like a grape almost. It looks like a grape.
Really?
Like,
What?
yeah.
Salt comes from the sea and pepper comes from tree.
Isn't that like remember cashews? Aren't cashews grown
Oh,
really?
cashews are very, very strange. Have you looked at a lot of cashews?
No.
Oh
You've
my
never
God.
seen a cat?
cashew
Oh,
plant?
you're gonna be blown away.
Oh boy.
I
Look at
would have
this thing.
never in a million years. Oh,
Look
you
at
found a
this.
carrot.
What? That looks like a friggin' fruit, and there's a cashew just growing off the bottom of it.
Yep.
Just one.
So what do they do with the fruit?
Look at that.
They definitely have to do something with it
Alright,
because
we're
that's
gonna show
a
them.
substantial amount of substance.
How are we gonna show our people this?
Oh my god.
I know, isn't that creepy?
Actually, I bet I can.
I kinda, when I saw that,
Share
I was
screen?
like,
What I'll do is I'm going to take a picture of it, and then
Yeah.
I'm just going to temporarily juxtapose it onto our screen.
you guys should look it up. Cashew plant.
Cashew plants
It literally looks like a bell pepper
will blow your mind.
with like a cashew on the bottom.
So
Yikes.
But that goes to show how much nutrients are in it. Like it has to have a whole fruit.
exactly.
To grow into
Yeah.
a nut. Like that's just crazy.
It's nuts. Haha.
It's nuts.
I see what you did there. That's funny.
I did it unintentionally.
You know, I try to convince people that that's how most of my humor happens, but it's not. It's forced.
Forced humor.
That's funny.
Alright, here we go. This is a great picture of a cat.
It is. That's alright. Yeah, peppercorns, huh?
Wait, isn't that
Someday I'll figure out how to do
that's
this.
a restaurant in Northborough?
Yes.
It's
Yeah, it's
a
a
restaurant in
catering. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Peppercorns, yeah. Little do we know, it's actually pepper.
Drag and drop. Oh boy.
Alright, baked vegetables, carrot, zucchini, and broccoli. No apparent reason, just decided I wanted those.
Okay.
Oh,
Plus I haven't done baked carrot, like ever.
yeah.
So, again, like we said, just gotta switch it up. Also for the nutrients.
Mm-hmm. Variety.
Yep.
Variety of colors, foods,
Exactly.
nutrients.
And like I said before, it's definitely been a challenge making these recipes because I have to make variety.
Yeah.
So. So after this, I'm just gonna toss it in olive oil, and then salt and pepper. Peppercorn.
So how do you cut broccoli?
So broccoli has these little trees, and I usually just cut it underneath it. But I like to keep a little bit of stem,
Yeah.
but not the majority. But you can keep it if you want. The stem.
This to work, right?
I've actually never done that.
So unfortunately, it looks like I'm not going to be able to show you guys a cashew plant. At least not through this.
Yes, look up a cashew plant
Yes,
today.
everybody.
That's everyone's homework.
Your
Yes.
homework is to look up the cashew
Worth
plant.
it. It's worth it.
It's so worth it. Your mind will be
It
blown.
shook my world, to be honest.
Seriously.
I was like, wow.
It's like, what else?
I know, then I started looking up all different stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't that how you get like sucked into what are those called? Internet rabbit holes?
I do
Like
that on
you s-
Instagram all
Oh
the
my
time.
You start
It's
on one
awful.
topic and then all of a sudden you go from cashew plants to now you're looking up how like, you know, dogs get their nails groomed.
Yes.
It's just like,
Yes.
how did I get
I
here?
know.
All
I
the time.
know.
Okay, so we're gonna toss in some olive oil. I'll probably do about, I just pour it because I have a good eye for it, but it's probably about like a tablespoon.
Yeah. So that's another fun thing, especially for you all at home that aren't super confident with cooking or your cooking skills. The more you do it, the more you measure it out, the less frequently you actually end up having to measure for the things that you use so frequently.
Yep.
Let me see how many times I can drop that word into a sentence. But yeah, it's like any other skill. You know, you practice it enough, you do it within these very set parameters, and all of a sudden, you don't really have to think about it too much anymore. It's really kind of an eyeball thing.
Yeah.
So that's why it was a challenge for me in the beginning to write these recipes, because I just throw stuff together.
Yep.
Ah.
So it was
So it
it
kind
was
of forced you to
interesting.
step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. I was like, oh geez.
Well, honestly, like when I first started cooking, I literally measured everything. Like exactly.
Well, yeah.
Because I was like, oh my god.
Because you don't know.
And then that's when you feel like, oh my gosh, this is taking way too long. Like this is such a process. This is so stressful. It's like, wait a minute. No, it's not. Not anymore, at least.
Exactly. So
You don't even really have to think about it. Just practice. Just prep.
Yeah.
And then you'll just know
Exactly.
eventually.
I mean, I still mess up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you ever mess up too bad, all you have to do is just throw a bunch of cheese on it and put it in the oven. It's fine.
That is actually true. Very true.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some veggies in
That looks
here.
very good.
I know.
Mhm. That is, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So
Color.
colorful.
It's usually just green, so we got some orange in there today. Okay, so like I said, pepper and salt. Yep, so you can see it.
That's
So
so cool.
nice. That's good.
I'll do some pink Himalayan and pepper.
Here we go.
Peppercorns.
Actually,
Look
if
at
you pull open that
Oh, they're
top
on the
drawer,
yeah,
we've got some rather interesting seasons in the back row if
Yes.
you want to try any of those.
Flavor God. Ooh,
Yeah.
all-purpose seasoning. Sea salt, garlic, onion, organic spices.
Oh.
You know,
That's one of the ingredients.
as opposed
Nice.
to unorganic spices.
That's
So-
actually a mixture of what I
Ooh,
use
this
a
is
lot.
kind of
For
cool.
those of you playing the home game, organic spices literally just means the spice plants were not treated with any kind of pesticides. There's
Interesting.
nothing about them that
Ooh.
makes them. Whoa.
We're good. We're good.
We got all the spice we need.
We good. We good. We just mix it on up.
Yeah, you almost can't overdo that spice. I've dumped a whole bunch of it on stuff. It's fine.
We're good.
Now, however, I wouldn't recommend dumping a whole bunch of paprika onto something and then
No.
hope for the best.
Hope for the best.
No,
Or
we're good.
red pepper flakes is another one too.
Oh,
You don't
yes.
think they're
Yeah.
really hot, but if you add too much to a dish,
You'll be
woo!
screwed. Okay, so let's do some pepper. We got our peppercorns.
He's just watching.
He found the carrot on the ground. I just heard some
that was great.
chomping.
Oh yeah, he loves carrots. It's
Tromping
his
from
thing.
below.
Every time we go over to Jamie's parents' house, he gets lots of carrots there.
Oh, that's cute.
awesome.
Crunch, 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 crunch. Means you're gonna have great eyesight, doggy.
Yeah, no cataracts for you.
Vitamin A.
No cataracts. Okay. So the oven is already heated to 400. We're gonna throw that in there for about 15 minutes and we'll check on it. These are cute.
Right?
That's all you need.
Jamie just picked those up. When she
Like a
first
Muppet.
pulled them out, I'm like, yeah, it's like these like little Muppet hand puppets. Like, no, they're for pulling things in and out of the oven.
That's all you need.
Yep, that's cute.
I love minimalist things.
Yes.
Like, my lifting shoes are minimalist. My lifting gloves are minimalist. My grooming regimen is minimalist.
Okay. So set it to 15 minutes on 400 with olive oil and some seasonings, and that's it.
Simple, simple, simple.
Very simple. And then let's check on our rice, because
Oh, it's probably got like another 60 minutes. To do.
seriously,
60.
it's gonna be cooking this whole time. Yeah, it still has some water.
So for anybody who may be joining us just now, Danielle has switched to brown rice for today,
Yes.
which if you are not aware, takes about a third longer to cook than your traditional white rices.
Yes.
And as we had already explained, it's because it's got the extra coating on it that is normally removed to gain white rice.
Yes. Okay, so next we're going to do shredded chicken. And in the recipe, if you guys are subscribers, I said that if you needed or if you didn't have enough time, you could use a rotisserie chicken and you can just shred it. So today I'm going to do that. Versus just putting some chicken breast, boneless, skinless, in a crock pot with chicken broth for about 6 hours on low. And you can just shred it after. But I didn't have enough time to prep that before this, so I got a rotisserie chicken.
Alright.
Which is a little small.
I was about to say, it looks like the size of a normal chicken.
Cornish game
Yes. So we're just gonna rip it up.
Rip,
Get on
rip
in there.
Chicken. Rip it good.
And then then I'm gonna do cilantro on top, fresh, and then.
So I'm guessing you're not one of those people that taste soap when they put cilantro on their palate.
No.
Me neither.
I am not. Are you one?
Nope.
Oh.
I'm not. I love cilantro. I think it's great.
I love cilantro.
But I do have some friends that I know of that they don't do the cilantro. The cilantro is like, this tastes like soap in my mouth. Yummy.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
But for anybody who's curious, that actually has to do with a specific gene that affects your palate, and it causes cilantro to taste like soap.
Just like the asparagus.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a gene apparently as well. So strange.
So wild. So wild.
You know, I feel like I learn a lot from these shows too, just sitting around
always
talking
learn
about
something.
ridiculous things.
Like peppercorns.
Yeah.
I never knew
The
that.
cashew though.
No, the cashew
cashew,
definitely
yes.
blew my mind. That is not one that I have ever really been aware of. And that kind of makes me wonder, like,
What
all
else?
right, what other nuts grow
Oh, yeah.
out of the bottoms of fruits? Like, is there an almond fruit? Is there a
No.
peanut fruit? Is
No.
there a Brazil nut fruit?
Maybe. I
That's
think
funny.
there are ones that do grow from fruits, but like peanuts literally grow in the ground.
Mhm.
And
That
they
is
have little
crazy.
strings into the ground. It's
Yeah.
like crazy.
So peanuts are vegetables then? Because is that not like one of the main differentiators
a
between?
legume though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
then
is cashew considered a legume?
Huh.
It's a fattier nut, and I mean that does kind of make sense since it grows out of a fruit.
Look it up.
they're not.
They're drupes.
They're
so
what?
then but peanuts are legumes, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Huh. Very interesting.
Yeah.
They are actually considered a legume.
Now look at the plant.
Wait,
Oh.
cashews?
So cashews are not considered a legume.
Oh.
Peanuts are considered a legume, even though they grow in the ground.
In the ground.
That's fine.
But yeah.
Interesting.
That is
So yeah,
interesting.
it grows little like I don't even know, like veins into the
Tendrils.
ground. Like,
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Man,
yeah.
the world of nuts is nuts.
It is. They're such interesting. All that fat that they have to like make. I don't even know how it works from the sun. You know,
Especially-
in the soil.
Like, how many plants are very fatty too when you consider it?
No, like vegetables aren't.
So I mean, avocado's a fruit.
And right. What does that look like? That's just on a tree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avocado tree, yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny, you know, we look at avocado and we think, oh yeah, this is a vegetable. No, that's a fruit. Just like tomatoes.
Yeah.
Tomatoes are fruits.
And almonds come in a little
A little
Shell.
almond shell. Oh, look at
On a
that.
tree.
It's like a pistachio.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
It's cute.
It's weird that the nuts are all very different.
Yeah. Nuts are very complex.
Yeah.
There's
I
so
go with that.
like so much variety and
Mm.
they're so dense.
Like macadamia nuts.
Yeah.
or, like, that's
Very
okay.
different tasting
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You know?
Nuts are nuts.
And the fat contents are all different.
Yeah, very different.
Well, I mean, you guys heard the one about the two peanuts that walked into a bar, right?
Jeez, here we go.
No.
Well, one was assaulted.
That's actually a good one.
Da, 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 da.
That's a good one.
Um,
Oh jeez.
so you're just shredding this with your fingers?
Yeah, so I'm just using my hands.
You can use a fork, right?
You can also use a fork if you don't like to touch it, or the previous week we did with the blender, but that would probably
Oh,
make
yeah.
it a little too fine.
Mm-hmm.
So it just all depends on how big you want the pieces to be.
You can also get the Wolverine claws.
Yes, we actually.
Oh yeah.
We saw those at I think TJ Maxx the other day.
That's
Can't
fun.
believe that.
Taryn came up to me and he was like, "Look at these!" Like, you animal.
I've always wanted to be an X-Man.
So yes, I'm gonna put the pico de gallo, which you can make your own, but I got it at Wegmans. They make an amazing pre-made pico de gallo. And I also got plain Greek yogurt for on top too. So kind of
nice.
like a sour cream replacement.
Yes, I love replacing sour cream in recipes with Greek
Yeah.
yogurt. Like, ever since Jamie
They're
turned
very-
me on to that, it's amazing.
They're
Yeah,
pretty
good.
similar, yeah.
Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I think Greek yogurt being used as sour cream tastes better
I
than
agree.
sour cream being used as sour cream.
Yeah.
I actually agree.
Now that being said, plain Greek yogurt I actually don't care for on its own.
No,
That's interesting.
no, like
It does have a little sour
It's very,
taste
it's
though.
just like tart
Yeah.
and
my
Sorry,
boss eats
sorry.
it by itself. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with
That's
you?
great.
What's wrong with
When
you?
people tell me that, like my patients, I'm like, good for
this
you.
is very good for you. You
You're
can't
right.
keep on doing that.
Savage.
I'm not gonna do that,
Plain yogurt.
but it is savage.
Oh,
It's very like sour.
It really is.
Ugh.
well, I
You
mean,
can have
you
berries
think about
and-
it, yogurt actually is pretty sour. It's just we grew up as kids on,
Sweet
yogurt.
sugared
Sugar infused.
yogurts. Oh, don't get me started on Go-Gurt. Because
Go-Gurt,
what's better for you than
yes.
yogurt in a tube that comes out as a liquid? Because that's totally yogurt.
That makes
That's
sense.
blue.
Yeah.
Ew, that's so weird. That's like, except like a push pop or something. That's about the only thing that's like.
Oh my god, I remember
Push pops.
That was my favorite.
Pops.
My favorite dessert as a kid. Push
Like,
pops, the
the
Flintstone
frozen-
ones.
Yeah.
What about vitamin gummies?
Oh
The
yeah.
Flintstone gummies.
Vitamin gummies.
Oh, I hated the purple ones though.
Really?
It just, yeah, it kind of tastes. It tasted like grape cough medicine.
Yeah,
It's
but
like-
they weren't gummies at first. They were like
Yeah, they were chewables.
chews. Yeah.
And I remember my mother used to have to hide them because they were so tasty
Yeah.
that I would like, vitamins, yum, yum, yum.
Too much.
And yeah, as we discussed in our previous episode on micronutrients, you can overdose on some of those micronutrients.
Yep.
You know, you think, oh, vitamins, they're good for you. Let's put more of them in our body, but not so much. Especially the fat-soluble ones. Ever wonder where kidney stones come from, kids?
And also the minerals. So if you read on the back of like a iron bottle, it says keep away from children because if they ate that much iron, you can really die. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually talking with one of my clients earlier in the week just to stress how important moderation is for everything.
Everything,
And
yeah.
I said, hey, do you know what happens if you breathe in too much pure oxygen? It's like, no, what? I said, you die. It's like, wait a minute.
And drink too much water.
Yes.
Yep, you can overhydrate yourself to death.
Yeah.
Easily, actually, which is scary.
At the end of the day, you have to remember, we are just giant cucumbers with anxiety. So live accordingly.
Believe it or not, the rice is done.
Wow, that was so much quicker than I thought it was going to be. It beat the veggies.
Beat the veggies.
Wow.
6 minutes to go.
All right, so there you go, guys. See, it's not that
Not too bad. Not too bad.
And brown rice is definitely the healthier alternative. I
Yes.
mean, white rice is pretty healthy for you.
Yeah.
But brown rice would definitely
They
be in
are
that
pretty
healthy
similar. Yeah.
They are, I know.
In
But
comparison, they're pretty.
just a little bit better, yeah.
Yep. Pretty similar. Okay, so I'm just gonna take out my containers
Yeah.
and start dividing some stuff.
Odie is really intent on watching you work today. He's just kind of been posting.
You wanna know why?
When
When I brought the chicken in,
drop.
yep, when I brought in the chicken from the grocery store, the dogs were like hovering me.
Oh gosh.
Like, oh,
Like, no,
I see what you have there. Did you bring enough to share with the rest of class? Oh, hi.
And I highly suggest.
So you put your head on my like, Victoria. Like, no, that's the dog.
That's so funny.
I suggest, if you can, getting glass containers. They're a great investment. I used plastic for so long, and I just would go through them so quickly, and just reheating them, they would get stained, and
Yeah, and I have
A mess.
those. I have the hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I don't use them often.
So we just got a very interesting message in Twitch.
Okay.
Almonds, peanuts, and other ground nuts, such as hazelnuts, chestnuts, macadamia, pistachio, coconuts, walnuts, pecans, these are all considered fruits.
Oh boy.
They are nuts that are botanically fruits.
Yes.
Interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing
I'm
that.
gonna look up a macadamia.
That was a lot. Nuts. Alright, the rice I'm just portioning out evenly with my eyeballs.
Well, so back in World War II, I could be horribly misquoting my history, and I hope I'm not. But Germany asked for the unconditional surrender of England to stop essentially bombing them when everything was going down. And the response that they got was nuts.
Nuts?
Nuts.
What is it? What?
Germany asked for unconditional surrender, and the response they got was nuts. You know, like, nuts to that.
Oh, like nuts. But
that was it. It was just that one word.
Just
nuts.
Okay.
So there you go, a little history for you too.
You hear it all.
I mean, we do know that supposedly Winston Churchill was quite the what's the word I want to use here? He was a very eloquent I guess you could call him almost like a comedian or a roaster of his time. He was really good at insulting people wittily.
Huh.
He was also drunk a lot of the time too, so I don't know if that played a role at all in that, but I do really enjoy history, especially that time period. So many interesting things that were going on in the world.
Yeah. I was never one for history. I don't know
No?
why. Yeah.
Well, I will tell
I
you
appreciate
this.
it, but
Those who don't learn from history
Yeah.
are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
that is true. That is the truth.
I told you guys I was watching that Chernobyl.
Yeah.
The what?
Amazing. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant. They have a show on it.
Oh,
So
yes.
these people they're basically gonna die, and they know that, and they're just risk their life to save the world. It's interesting.
Wow.
It's a very
That is very
great
interesting.
example of people working together and
Altruism.
knowing their fate, and it's just very interesting. It could have gone a lot worse.
Wow.
A lot worse.
Wow. That's
That
on
was off
Netflix?
topic. Watch it. No, it's actually HBO.
Well, Chernobyl
HBO.
is still recovering
Oh yeah.
to this day from that disaster.
Nobody will ever be able to live there in our lifetimes.
That is
Times
unbelievable.
who knows?
Mm-hmm.
10,000 years plus.
Craziness. Alright, so we got the chicken and the rice in the containers. I have also limes, which I'm not going to cut yet, but I'm going to slice them up, and then I'll put just a little slice in it, and I'll squeeze it on top.
Put the lime in the coconut.
Lime in the coconut. Okay, and then we have some cilantro, which I can put on top of the chicken. Chop some of that.
I was about to say, are you just gonna drop like whole sticks? It's a garnish.
Oh, it smells so good. I love cilantro. And then, so I'll just do the lime and the sour cream, or not the sour cream, the Greek yogurt the day of, just so it doesn't get things soggy. And for the lime to stay fresh. So I'm just putting some cilantro on the chicken. And this chicken, the rotisserie chicken, is actually plain. I got a plain one. But my boyfriend, there wasn't any plain left, so he got a lemon one, which is fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's better than I was thinking they probably put some rubs on it and stuff.
Yeah, I think it was
Lemon,
like lemon pepper or something, which is fine. That's just more taste. Better for him because I like things more plain. I'm weird. Okay. I'm gonna put that down.
Well, you add stuff.
I do. I've gotten a lot better. Especially with making these recipes again. Okay, so we're gonna check this. A great way to check if they're done is to poke it with a fork to see if it goes in easily, or just to look at the surface to see if it's a little browned. So that looks pretty decent. I'm just gonna poke it with a fork to double check. still needs some time. Yeah. Yeah, the carrots are still pretty hard, so we'll put that back in. All right, I hear you.
2 cups of coffee got me like, whoa.
Oh, speaking of, my entire coffee spilled over in my cup.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have to shop back it.
Hopefully you
But I
didn't
bought
have-
her one and just drank it.
Were there any milk products in your coffee?
Soy milk, but.
You should definitely make sure you clean that up
Oh, yeah.
good as we get closer to summer, or your car will.
Oh, it's happening today.
No.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
That actually, after one of our very, very, very first meetings we had at, I think it was Panera,
Yeah.
I left with my full coffee and then
No.
proceeded to spill it in my car, and just kind of forgot to really clean it up because I didn't have time
Did you
that
end up
day.
in it?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
So, a couple weeks later, my car had this really heinous smell. And yeah, so that being said, people, remember, if you spill something in your car, you really, really, really should clean that up. Because as soon as the sun starts hitting it and baking it, oof, that's
It's
done.
an oven.
I'm on its way right now.
Tiger Uppercut, thanks for tuning in to our Twitch channel and checking us out. Today we are cooking up some shredded lime cilantro chicken and brown rice. Then there's also a little vegetable medley that's finishing up in the oven, and we'll be adding that to the dishes in just a second.
Yes. All right. So I can get, let's see, the pico de gallo I can do as well. Grab that.
I also forgot a homemade pico de gallo. Oh wait, no.
I'll just say homemade.
Sorry, not homemade. It's not homemade. It's Wegmans.
But you
Wegmans.
can make your home. Oh, so this one has, let's see, tomatoes, onions, lime juice, cilantro, woo, olive oil, jalapeno pepper, kosher salt, and black pepper.
Wow, everything that we can understand.
Very simple ingredients, so very easy to make, but again, it's just a time thing. Had no time,
Yeah, but see, you can still eat
but you
healthy.
can still eat very healthy. Alright, so I'm going to use a fork just so I can drain some of the liquid part of this. I'll put it on the rice.
Actually, I believe there's a slotted spoon right behind your Wegmans bag on the counter if you want to use that.
Oh, it's okay. I think it's fine because this is small. But thank you.
I got you. Trying to control the amount of pour.
Yes. This stuff is so good.
I do like pico de gallo.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yep.
You could actually also do some guacamole to add more fat, or just
Yeah.
avocado.
So, for those of you that like to count your macros, if you do subscribe to our meal prep plan, one of the things you can utilize, looking at the breakdown of the macros on the plan, if you need to add a little bit of fat, well, something like that is the perfect tip and or hint.
Exactly. And the way I do it with counting macros is I have 1 serving for 5 meals. So for the rice, I did 1.5 cups dry. And then all you do with that is just divide it by 5. That's it. Very simple. Before, I would actually portion out each meal.
Oh man, that was
Very, very tedious. And it's not necessary. It's only necessary if you need to be very specific if you're doing a show or something. But I'm like, this is just relax.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things too. If you make meal prep or any kind of healthy activity harder than it has
Exactly.
to be,
Then it's
the odds of you continuing to do it are just not in your favor. I mean,
Very true.
let's be honest. How many of us can continuously do something that we don't enjoy over
Yeah.
and over and over without being like, I can use a little break?
Yep.
So find the things that work for you. Find the things that you don't get a lot of discourse in your life and your feelings around, and utilize those more. Find the things that resonate with you and gravitate towards them. And of course, we're talking about healthy things here because, if you resonate with crack cocaine, I would not advise gravitating towards that. But maybe simple meal preps or, eating more vegetables. If, that's easier, you resonate with that, yes, you should absolutely gravitate to that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Today must have been leg day. Actually, every day is leg day for Danielle. She recently injured her shoulder. Well, actually, not too
really recently, but
it's been a while. So she's going to be having some surgery. She's going to be going through some physical therapy for that. But you know, she is a gym enthusiast, so she's been pumping the heck out of those legs, building those wheels, as it were.
Those wheels, that's true.
Actually, there's somebody I follow. She's an amazing power lifter, an amazing coach.
Is it Lauren?
No.
Oh, okay.
Steffi Cohen.
Sounds familiar.
You would probably recognize her if you saw her, but
Yeah.
she had the greatest quote yesterday talking about her legs. When I guess, you know, whenever somebody asks me if my legs are you know, if they're just naturally occurring, like I don't really work, like how often do you work legs, how well do you work legs? And a response was, do you think these getaway sticks that look like ham rockets were built overnight?
That's awesome.
That's excellent.
Hey, Tiger Uppercut, thank you so much for the follow. We really appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yes.
Oh, look, those veggies are done.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Not yet.
Yeah. I'm just gonna double check. So I'm gonna check with the most dense ones first. So that's the carrots, and those are still a little tough. So I'm gonna say maybe 10 more minutes.
Okay.
So we can start our talk.
Yeah, well, those are
Yeah. Let me just
start a timer so we don't forget about those.
increase this timer.
20 minutes later. Oh, remember those veggies? What veggies?
Burnt veggies. Okay.
All right, guys.
We're good.
We're going to take a couple seconds to kind of reorient our cameras, and we're going to sit down and hang out and talk to you about ketogenesis. I'm going to put this paprika away, too. I don't need to be hanging on to this anymore.
We'll do that. Paprika. Looks good. Yummy.
Oh, I forgot to change that. That's going to bug me. I have to
What
change
is it?
that.
The overlay?
Yeah.
Alright. Ah, feels good to sit.
Doesn't it?
Oh.
Oh. Chat session. Where's the overlay editor? Hey everybody, thanks for bearing with us. It's just going to really bother me that the wrong title is currently up on our chat session overlay, so I'm going to change that real quick. Gosh, don't you love technology where you can just kind of change stuff on the fly like this?
Yes. It is nice. Very nice.
Tiger Uppercut asks us, are there any cheat days on keto? We'll get into that.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
so
a good question.
the Instagram people, we're about to talk about keto.
Oh, look out, pup. I'm just going to scoop myself back here so that way I don't completely block out Victoria here. So for anybody who's just joining us, my name is Dan. I am Dan, the Fit Ferret, personal trainer, and kind of running the technological aspect here of our Better University show featuring Danielle, our lovely and amazing cook and also exercise enthusiast.
Yes.
And of course, right here to my left, we have Victoria, our registered dietitian, who is just full of that nutritional knowledge. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. We just cooked up some awesome cilantro lime chicken, and now we're going to be moving on to talking about ketogenesis, keto, all the buzz around it, and any questions you might have about it, we're going to answer that. So I guess the best place to start, the first place we should start, is kind of what does ketogenesis do inside the body? You know, what is ketogenesis? Because the diet isn't actually ketogenesis, the diet is keto, but doing a keto diet puts your body into a state of ketogenesis. So when we normally eat foods, carbohydrates, proteins, all that fun stuff, fats, what the body does is it breaks that down into glucose. And then we then utilize that glucose as our energy. However, in ketogenesis, the body does not have an abundant access to glucose, and it actually stops producing as much of it, and what it ends up doing is it starts to produce ketones from fat to then be used as fuel. So, the big thing to note here, a keto diet is putting the body into ketogenesis, which is utilizing fat into the form of ketones as energy, as opposed to our normal means of producing energy by turning carbohydrates into glucose. All right? So now that we've kind of established that, you can understand that keto is a diet that utilizes fat for fuel, while most other normal diets are diets that utilize, carbohydrates as your main source of fuel. So that's the big thing to note right at the very beginning. So with that in mind, we're going to dive a little bit into what a keto diet consists of. So we start by severely restricting our carbohydrate intake, because the thing is you cannot force your body to bump itself into a ketogenic state if you still have sources of carbohydrates to draw energy from. So one of the big things that people encounter, especially in the first couple days of a keto cycle, or if you've never done it before and you're trying the first time, is you run into what's called the keto flu, and you feel very drained, you feel very lethargic, your energy levels are just absolutely below the floor. And that's because your body is still trying to create glucose from things that it just can't produce into the energy you need. So until you fully kick over into that ketogenic cycle, that's why after like day 3 or 4, people typically start to notice that after such a dip in their energy, it just skyrockets up through the roof. Because again, what happens is you've kicked your body into that mode where you're in ketogenesis, you're starting to burn ketones as fuel instead of glucose.
So on average, because I personally have never done this, but on average I know you have, how long does it take to kick that keto flu to get to the point of using that
So
fat
the
as a
first
fuel?
time I ever did keto, it took me about 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
I definitely wasn't doing it perfect. I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't staying as hydrated as I needed to. I wasn't adding salt into my diet like I needed to. We'll get a little bit more into some of the finer points later. But yeah, I had a headache, felt nauseous kind of. It really is. It's flu-like symptoms that you get from this, and it's your body's dehydrated, your body is lacking in minerals, your body is not producing energy, so it's all sorts out of whack. It's for all intents and purposes, it's your central nervous system kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, are we dying? Like, is this dying? What's going on? Am I dying? I need to stop dying. But so to kind of recap on your question, it definitely took me 3 to 4 days to really get out of that, feel that energy burst, and not feel like crap anymore. I'd say the next couple times that I did keto cycles, my body was a lot more used to it, and I was also more educated about it, smarter on the topic, and kind of had better plans going into it overnight.
Oh wow.
Wow, okay.
So that's the cool thing is once you've done ketogenesis or once you've done a keto cycle, a couple times, your body kicks into that fat burning mode for fuel a lot quicker. So it's also one of the reasons why I only recommend that you utilize keto in short cycles that last, no longer than 3 months. That's like a long keto cycle for me.
Yeah.
Typically, the keto program that I bring people through is 3.5 weeks long. So it's just shy of a month. It teaches you about ketogenesis. It has a whole diet plan laid out for you with meal prep and everything. And then it's kind of on you to make sure that you're navigating that properly and utilizing the guide as well to help you combat the keto flu the first time. And then of course, the next time you do it, you typically kick into it a lot faster. I do want to shift over and talk to Victoria a little bit on kind of a little bit more on the medical side of what's going on with ketogenesis and what keto was originally used for before it became this buzzy, industry word for dieting and all that other fun stuff.
So, to actually follow the ketogenic diet, really how it was made originally, it was for children with epilepsy, and they actually made, the only way to accomplish this was through formula, like feeding formula, and it's just very difficult to take away all those carbs, so that's how they started, and it treats people with epilepsy really well. But like I said, it's a really tough diet to follow, especially if you're like an adult. It's easier for kids because then the kids just eat what the parents give them and stuff.
So you mean it's in a formula because it's hard for the people giving the children the food to not give them carbohydrates?
Yeah, it's just the hardest diet to follow it to how it was built originally. It's very low carb.
Yes.
Like the one that you probably follow is a version of the real keto
the medical
diet. The medical keto diet is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So the one that I follow, it's about 20 grams of carbohydrates for a healthy male, even fewer for a female.
Wow, that's
and the
So
carbs you're
little.
getting are basically from fibrous vegetables, and that's it.
Really nothing anyway.
Like,
Yeah, so
I think every couple of days you get
intense.
some berries, which
Yeah.
are lower on the glycemic index, but like
Yeah.
that's it. That's your carbs for the day. It's just like a handful of berries.
Yeah.
I'm a carb monster.
loves bread.
That flu for me would be
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because that's essentially when you're hungry. That's what
Exactly.
you're hungry,
Yep.
basically.
So real quick, a shout out on Instagram to Karen Ella 26,
Karen!
watching from Norway.
Yes!
I love that we
She's in
have.
Norway, yeah.
Isn't that great? We have
No,
this.
that's my best friend. She lives down the street. She's just in Norway.
Oh, all right. Here I am thinking we've got some international viewership. I mean, we have international
Oh, we
viewership,
do.
but so Karen, thank you for wishing us well from Norway, even though you're not from Norway. You're just there currently in Norway, but
Nice.
yes, we appreciate it. Thank you.
That's funny. But yeah, so medical, is there anything else? Just epilepsy that you know of for kids? Is it
I
for
think
adults? Why is it just kids? Do you know?
Like I said, it's just so hard to follow
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, and to reap the benefits, you really have to do it.
You have
Yes.
to like be
Yeah, you
strong.
can't just half-ass.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It works though.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
that's so.
So,
so is this
yeah.
something they have to be on for the rest of their lives
Yes.
in order to not have?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So that being said, people being treated for seizures with a keto diet, rest of their life. General population not being
Yes.
treated medically with a keto diet, I don't recommend long term.
No.
So we're going to kind of segue into that real quick. So when keto kind of became this big buzzword in the fitness industry, and everybody was like, oh my god, keto diets, jumping left, right, up, center, down. I got on the bandwagon a little bit, but more just because I like to always explore those new things as they come out, because
Yeah.
it's interesting to me. I am a science nerd when it comes to health and fitness and all that fun stuff, so I like to explore it. I put myself through it, I tried it, I love the results that I got from it personally, but as I kind of absorbed the knowledge and understood what it was doing to my body on a biomechanical level, there was this little red flag that went up, and I said, you know what? This is definitely not something that you want to do long term.
Yeah, no.
I didn't have anything to back up that feeling, but it was a gut feeling just based on what I know from health science, what I know from nutritional science, and what we're now starting to find is there are some longer term studies that are coming out on people who have been doing keto for a lot longer than my recommended maximum 3 months. Like we're talking 2 to 3 years, and they're starting to experience things like hair loss.
Yeah.
Really brittle nails, just like things that actually I believe vitamin E and vitamin K are very responsible for. They're starting to find that even when supplementing that in the body, there's something about the keto diet that does not
No kidding.
work well with those.
Then carbs must provide some type of transport for those vitamins
But
of some
how
sort.
much nutrients are you actually getting on the keto diet? Because you can't have vegetables, a lot of vegetables, right?
So your micronutrients,
Yeah.
definitely, it is a lot harder to get
Yes.
those. So it's similar to what I would tell somebody who's going on a very strict vegetarian diet or a very strict vegan diet, is you have to do your research and you have to make sure that you are constantly adjusting and switching up, your meal plan. You really have to, because there is no perfect meal plan out there for these extreme type diets that are going to cover your entire bases from A to Z. You have to be smart about it. You have to understand that sometimes you do need to supplement in cases like that because you're just not going to be getting what you need. But that being said, we want to also treat that word supplement as it's supposed to be. You should never be reliant on a supplement. You should never be trying to replace real food in your diet with supplementation. Supplements are exactly that. They supplement your diet. And I know, we already talked about this earlier. Don't use the word to describe the word, but
Yes, exactly.
That's another one, yeah.
That's funny. I do want to mention real quick that these people that are on ketogenic diets long term are medically monitored. So they check for ketones in your urine, they do blood work. So you can go into acidosis and it can be very, very dangerous for your body. So when you say 3 months, I say 2 months. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, so like I
you
said,
know what I mean?
that's like the long term.
So just be
I would
careful.
never do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if somebody said, hey, I want to keep doing this for a while, can you coach me through it? You're like, all right, I can give you plans to keep going, but once you kind of hit that 3 month mark,
Yeah.
I'm going to either ask you to stop or I'm going to stop coaching you through it, because it's just, I don't want to be responsible for any long-term effects that you experience from it if you decide to keep going through. That is the farthest that I condone myself personally. Again, I'm not a doctor, I just play one on TV, but I have done multiple cycles of keto throughout the last couple of years now. So now that we kind of talked about the precautions and things that you should be aware of before pursuing something like this, I do want to kind of dive into some of the benefits that I've gotten.
I was going to say, why do you do it?
Yeah, so some of the benefits that I've gotten, some of the benefits that clients that I've worked with have gotten. So let's jump back for a second. We talked about ketogenesis and how it, starts to utilize and burn fat as fuel as opposed to carbohydrates. Well, with that in mind, let's analyze for a second how the body stores excess calories to begin with. The body stores excess calories via fat cells. So, if ketogenesis is a fat-burning or fat-utilizing diet for energy needs, where are you going to pull energy from if you're not meeting your body's entire caloric needs for the day? Now again, very simple equation for any kind of weight loss or fat loss. Calories in versus calories out. So in a keto diet, because it is very fat heavy and very low on carbohydrates, it is actually incredibly difficult to hit what would be considered maintenance levels for caloric intake for your body. So the first thing to note is in a keto diet, you're already almost always going to be in a deficit. Now being in a deficit, that means your body's going to need to pull energy from other sources via your own fat cells. So your body's in this heightened fat burning state because it's utilizing fat as fuel. So it's much more efficient and quick at burning and utilizing fat, that when it starts to draw from your body to make up for those calories that you're not getting, it's going to be a much quicker and more efficient process because it's not something that the body has to then convert into something else to then be used. It's already in its usable state. All right? So let's talk some benefits. One of the first and biggest benefits that I got out of it, and to some people this may not be a benefit, but to me this was a huge benefit. I hated peppers and I hated tomatoes. And it wasn't just like, I would eat them and not like them. It's that as soon as they touched my palate, I would gag. I just could not handle the taste, the texture of peppers and tomatoes. After my first cycle of keto and putting myself into such a carb-restricted state, and there were tomatoes and peppers as part of my keto meal plan, I tell you, those tomatoes and peppers tasted like heaven.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I was hoping, I was curious if, maybe that was just a temporary thing. My body was so carb depleted that it didn't matter what the carb was, it was going to taste amazing. But what I noticed is after finishing and going back to a carb-dense diet again to provide fuel, I enjoy, dare I say enjoy, tomatoes and peppers.
Wow.
Now it still isn't something that I necessarily go out of my way to eat. Like I'm not going to grab a tomato and start munching on it like an apple like some people would do.
I probably would.
But, now it's like, oh hey, if I order something out and there's tomatoes on it, I don't ask for them to be removed.
Yes.
If there's a dish that calls for tomatoes, I don't gag. I put the tomatoes in it and I actually enjoy eating the tomato.
I don't gag.
Now, the other thing I've noticed is as I've done more and more keto cycles, I find that these vegetables that I was so averse to have become more and more palatable.
Interesting.
So that was a huge benefit for me. And I was curious if that was a me thing or if that was something that people would experience across the board. And I will tell you that I've had other clients that have reported a higher affinity for vegetables. And by that I don't mean they were processing them better. I mean they noticed that they were enjoying them more, or they were seeking them out, or they had like a taste for them. And I think that part of that is psychological. Because again, your body is in such a carb-starved state that any carbohydrate, and again, vegetables are carbohydrates, so whenever you hear people say like, oh, low carb or no carb, that doesn't mean no vegetables. All right? Or no, I'm sorry. When you hear people say, oh, carbs are bad for you, or oh, carbs are bad. Vegetables are carbohydrates, so remember that. Yes, fruits as well.
Yep.
When people say carbs are bad for you, they're typically talking about bleached grains.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like one small drop in the bucket of what is carbohydrates. Anyways, So a bunch of clients did report, enjoying vegetables more beyond that. So I'd say that's absolutely a benefit you could get from this. If you find that you don't enjoy vegetables or it's really hard to get vegetables into your diet, maybe doing a cycle of keto might help you include more vegetables in your diet in the future as you move forward.
Interesting.
Like almost a palate reset.
Yeah. So my anecdotal evidence is there. Now what I think is going on beyond the psychological reason is we've discussed before how important gut health is, and the bacteria that live inside here are directly responsible for the types of foods that you crave. I have to believe, now again, we're still really starting to learn about gut health, so there aren't too many things that can necessarily support what I'm about to say, so I do need to preface this with, this is not scientific fact yet, this is just a gut feeling about what's going on a microbiological level to make it so I find vegetables more palatable. Well, by being again in that such carb-depleted, carb-starved state, that the few carbohydrates you do get are going to encourage those bacteria that enjoy vegetables or make you crave vegetables to flourish. Because again, in this diet, you are having 0 grains.
Yes.
Absolutely 0.
Crazy.
So the bacteria in your gut that flourish off grains, well, they're not going to have that resource that they need, and they're going to start to depopulate. And they're going to start to be repopulated by bacteria that are more apt and more prone to the foods that you are consuming. So again, don't quote me as scientific fact on that, but based again on my knowledge of what I have and what I do understand about kind of what's going on, I have to believe that there's a very strong correlation there as to why one of the benefits that I've gotten and several clients have gotten from keto is more enjoyment from vegetables.
Yes.
Do either of you guys have anything you want to say before I dive into some of the other bonuses that I've noticed?
I just want to time check on our hour for
Oh,
Instagram.
yes. What are we at?
Yeah,
I don't even know. Can you even check that?
Yeah, I'm not sure when we started.
We started at like 11:15, 11:20, so we're actually getting kind of close to the hour.
I don't know if I can check it.
All right, so what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to try to abbreviate a little bit.
Yeah.
If you have any questions on keto, fire them off now. Start asking now. Yes. So we're gonna jump into that. I'm going to cover one of the other benefits that I found to be really helpful. Then we're going to get to all of your questions about keto. So, insulin sensitivity. One of the things that you may not be necessarily aware of is the insulin chemical inside your body is directly responsible for hormone production, which leads to muscle growth, and it's also responsible for fat storing. Now, higher levels of insulin versus lower levels of insulin play a very pivotal role in these cycles and how these happen. Typically, after a workout, you want to spike your insulin. You want to have higher levels of insulin, so your body's going to produce more growth hormone, and you're going to utilize your calories in a more efficient manner. However, if you are constantly spiking your insulin every single day by eating lots of sugary things or just, lots of carbohydrates and not necessarily utilizing it in the correct fashion, your body starts to become resistant to your own insulin, which means you're not going to have as acute of a response to your own insulin, which means you're going to start to store more fat and you're going to grow less muscle. One of the benefits that I found in keto is it's very good at helping to, I don't want to use this word this way because this isn't scientifically accurate, reset your own sensitivities to your insulin. So to explain that a little bit more in depth, what's happening is you're basically not doing anything with insulin anymore at that point because you're switching over to this entirely different mode of fuel burning. So you're kind of depriving your body from those spikes in insulin, which then kind of allows you to drop that threshold of resistance to it because, again, you're not being exposed to it constantly. So it is kind of like hitting a refresh button. It is kind of like hitting a reset button. It is not exactly like that because, again, there's a lot more going on, beneath the surface. It's not just as simple as that. But insulin sensitivity, you can increase the good parts of insulin sensitivity by utilizing keto in that way. Another big thing, fat loss. If you're on a weight loss journey and you're carrying a lot of fat, keto cycles can absolutely help you dramatically and very quickly drop a lot of fat. Now, that being said, we want to make sure we stick to the whole education-based platform that we are and, being safe about everything that you do. Dramatic is not always healthy and or safe.
Right.
So yes, it can produce very effective, dramatic results. But you have to understand that isn't always the healthiest or safest thing for your body, especially to just drop all that weight so quickly. Another big thing to notice, there goes Instagram. We're going to pause for just a second, guys, while we reset Instagram, so that way anybody who is watching on Instagram doesn't miss out anything that we're about to talk about.
We are live.
All right, and we are back live on Instagram. Sorry about that little blip, guys. We got into a really awesome topic today, and unfortunately there's just so much that we want to say about it. So where we kind of left off with that, we were talking about insulin sensitivity, we were moving into fat loss. So again, with the whole dramatic fat loss thing, that isn't necessarily healthy or good for your body. So you have to understand that. And one of the first things, if you are weighing yourself constantly, now again, here at Better You, we discourage constant weighing on the scale because, as we've explained before, the scale is not your friend, it's also not your enemy, and it's not a representation of your health. It is a number, and that is it. You will initially see a very dramatic drop in number on the scale. Now, understand that immediate drop is not fat loss. It absolutely is not. You cannot drop fat that quickly. The immediate loss of weight that you will notice on a keto diet is very similar to any low carbohydrate diet that you go on. Less carbs, less water retention. That's it. Most of the weight you lose in the first couple weeks is water. But at that point, from then on, most of the weight you lose after that point, it's not going to be water because you can't hold on to water. So at that point, you are going to start to lose more fat at an expedited rate. All right. So those are just kind of the bonuses and benefits I wanted to talk about here. If you have more questions or if you want to learn more about keto, please drop me a DM at the Fit Ferret. Email me, dan@mybetteruniversity.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions and to see if you might be interested in taking our keto course. Other than that, we did have a question about, is there cheat days on keto? So, unfortunately, there are no cheat days on keto. If you cheat or break from the diet, you will reset everything that you've just done and you will feel like crap.
I was gonna say, what does it feel like?
Oh my gosh, no. You cheat on keto and you feel awful.
How do you come back?
Transition.
So,
Slowly.
we're gonna discuss transitioning out of keto, very quickly.
Yes.
Now, obviously, don't use this as your guide to transitioning out of keto because this is an abridged version. It's actually a much more complicated process. But it does start with just slowly starting to reintroduce carbohydrates into your diet, starting with more vegetables.
Yes.
Then you move into the fruits, and then eventually after a week or two of transitioning out, then you start adding the grains back in.
Now, is that part of the 3 weeks, or is that after 3 weeks?
After the 3 weeks.
Okay.
So in our keto course, it is 3 weeks of ketogenic dieting. And then there's a guide that if you want to then transition out of keto, you follow that guide to transition out. Or you continue on a ketogenic diet till you're ready to transition out of it.
I see.
Yeah.
All right?
Great.
So again, if you guys have any more further in-depth questions about that, feel free to slide me a DM. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll answer your questions. And of course, at the same time, I'll try and sell you on our keto program. So understand that if you do contact me, I am going to have to market myself a little bit because, again, at the end of the day, we do need to keep the lights on so we can keep doing this. But we do this because we love you guys. We do this because we love what we do. If you have topics you want us to talk about, send us an email, slide us a DM. Let us know, what do you want us to educate you on? We are more than happy to answer all questions on health, fitness, nutrition, all that awesome stuff. Other than that, we're going to do a few shameless plugs before we wrap up the show today. So we do have a subscription service based off of the awesome meals that Danielle preps. She writes up an amazing comprehensive PDF guide to that meal. It's a recipe. It breaks down the macronutrient count for each meal that you're going to be getting out of it. And it takes the guesswork out of prepping healthy meals for your week.
Yep.
So I'd say you'd be silly not to utilize it, especially if you have trouble coming up with the meals or like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You could endlessly surf through Pinterest. That's easy. You could do that, but that's going to take your time.
Overwhelming.
Or
It is overwhelming.
you could pay us $5 a month, and every single Monday, you're going to get a new recipe for the week. Easy, simple. No hunting, no searching, no gathering. Here's your recipe. Use it. And then, of course, you get to then watch the show and see us cook it live.
Yes, and then you can ask your questions then.
Yeah. Another thing that we're definitely going to start to move towards in the future, guys, we're going to start to do some other smaller video segments, just based on kitchen education, cutting vegetables, little things that you might not necessarily think about. Quick ways to measure things out or equivalencies in measuring.
Yes.
So that is something that we are going to be moving into a little bit more in the future. We're still going to do the live show because we love doing this, but we are going to start to include more short clips that you can access on our YouTube channel at your convenience, at your leisure. So again, if there are any particular things that you'd like to see or you're curious about, let us know. We will make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You guys have anything you want to wrap up with?
You said it all.
Fantastic. Hey guys, thank you so much again for joining us on this awesome Sunday. Once again, I'm Dan.
I'm Victoria.
And Danielle.
And we are Better University.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.